Welcome back to another episode of A Blessing in Divorce and part 3 of our summer series. Today, I'm going to be talking about grief. There is a lot of it when a marriage ends or a long-term relationship. And along with the grief comes this ruminating over the good and the bad memories, the constant running through of what happened or what didn't happen, or the things that were said or that weren't said, and what could have gone wrong, and all the questions. And it just causes such an amount of anxiety in us, and also this absolute sort of not, the knowing of the absence of what we once had, and of course the things that we were hoping to have moving forward, this life together, this family, this future, that everything was supposed to be great. So let's talk about that today. If you've missed the beginning of this, if you just came across this episode, episode 83 is where it all started. That is where I outlined this journey that we're on, this summer series, and today is part 3. So I invite you to check out the other episodes, 83, 84, and 85, if you haven't already, and then you can come back to this one, though I will say that you can hear each of these on their own. They're not necessarily like building on each other. So welcome to my podcast, to this show. I'm really excited that you're here and here for this journey. I'm looking forward to sharing this with you today. So let's get right into it, shall we? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of A Blessing in Divorce. I am so grateful to be allowed into your headset and day today. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm the host of this podcast and the owner and founder of the Separation Club, which is the club you never wanted to be part of, but the best club to be in if you're going through separation and divorce. Here we talk about how to heal, move forward, and find love if you're so inclined. Also, motherhood through divorce, finding yourself, and creating the life you deserve. Our tools are community, sisterhood, honesty, vulnerability, spirituality, and coaching. And that's when we aren't talking to our experts. I'm also a divorced mother of 4 adult sons, remarried, and a stepmom to 3. So we will be talking about everything that goes with all of that here. If you are recently separated, thinking of separating, divorcing, or even beyond your divorce, but still feeling it, then this is the podcast for you. Hi there, and welcome back. So today we're talking about grief. And I have often said, when it comes to the end of a marriage, there is a lot of grief because, of course, there's a lot of loss. Not just the loss of a partner, but the loss of a dream, a future, of the family unit as we had planned it and known it so far. There are so many things that feel so heavy and leave such a big void in our lives. You might have to move. You might have to move out of your dream home. Who knows? It can feel really, really heavy. So I want to get into that today. I think there often isn't enough attention, if you will, on grief, in recognizing that this is a really big part of the pain that we feel and the healing that needs to be done. When somebody loses a spouse or a partner to a death, then the entire community rallies around, and there's a real acknowledgement of the greater sort of circle around you that there has been a loss. But in divorce, it gets murky. People take sides. Some people feel that the one party is justified over the other party, or somebody feels you've done something wrong, or there's judgment, and there's so much other icky stuff that not only are you going through this loss, but you might have lost friends because of it. You might have lost support because of it. So I just want to say that I recognize your grief and I recognize what you've lost. This is a safe space to express that and feel that, and you don't have to justify your feelings around loss and grief here. This is a safe place to say, I've lost so much and I feel the void of that and I really miss it. I also want to say that, I think we get stuck in a pattern, if you will, or a sort of a behavior that requires, if you will, that we hate the person that we're divorcing, whether we chose it or not. And so because society kind of expects us to hate our ex in a way, there's this tendency to look for the problems, to look for like the reasons to be very angry at the other person. And I don't believe that that's necessary at all. And it isn't helpful in any which way to anyone's healing or progress forward. And if you have to co-parent, then it is so important to find a way forward where you can be civil and friendly with each other for the sake of your children, if nothing else. So it's okay if you're grieving the love as well, that you had for this person, if you're grieving the loss of their love for you. And it's okay that you still love them, because, you've loved this person for a long time, potentially. You might have had children together, and you don't have to stop loving them to A, not want to be with them anymore, to know that it's wrong, or B, to just simply wish it was different. That's okay. But having said all of that, we do need to move forward. Life goes on, and this particular couple is now not a couple anymore. You and your spouse are not together anymore, or you're planning on separating. And there comes a point where we do need to accept that that is the reality and start moving forward and healing from that. So that's really what I want to get into today. I understand where the grief comes from, but I also know how important it is to move forward from this. But I think it's easier when we allow ourselves to grieve, to actually feel the sorrow of losing this person and this life that you had together. So let's kind of jump into this a little bit. Why is there so much grief around it? When somebody loses someone to a death, it's understood. Nobody really questions, why are you so sad? It's expected and obvious that this person will be sad. But when the marriage ends, it's like I said in the very beginning, it's a lot more ambivalent, because perhaps this person that you are divorcing was unkind or abusive or toxic or whatever towards you, not a good person. Maybe they cheated, maybe who knows what the reasons are. And so people might not have the patience, if you will, or the tolerance to hear you say, I really miss that person though. I'm really sad to not be together anymore, and I miss when we were happy. They might, because they're very quick then to remind you, but they're a horrible person. How could you miss them? So it is important to acknowledge our grief. A really big part of the grief that we're feeling, the loss, one of the things that we've really lost is our identity. Our identity of being this person's partner. So let's say you were their wife, or, whatever, however you identified. But with this divorce and this split, there is a change in your identity. You are no longer identified as attached to this person. And, you've kind of suddenly lost not just the person, but your role with this person and your identity as part of this couple. Those are losses as well. And like I said, to outside people who haven't gone through this, they don't get that. But it's a really confusing and difficult time. And the thing that's really important when you realize that, take a look at what you've lost, like acknowledge it. I've lost my identity as their partner. I've lost my role as their partner. I've lost, you just lost that part of your life. But that doesn't mean you can't fill it with something else. Now you are taking on a new role. Now you are taking on a new life and a new identity. So I think what's really important, because we tend to emphasize the loss and the void, but we don't necessarily also focus on how to fill it back up. And I'm not saying rush out and become someone else's partner, because that's what we tend to do, because that's who I am. I'm supposed to be with someone. Not necessarily. So allow yourself the time to acknowledge what you're feeling, what you've lost, the role and the identity, and then think about, which role do I want to play now? I want to play the role of, for example, mother, if you're still a parent or a parent. I want to play the role of a professional. I'm going to dive into my career. I want to play the role of a single woman or person. Just start giving yourself some other identities, or I don't know, giving yourself, but acknowledging your new identity. Because it's not like, okay, I lost this identity. That doesn't mean you just suddenly became a zero. But I think one can feel like a zero if you don't start to acknowledge and recognize the new roles and the new identities that you're now acquiring. Whether you wanted them or not, this is where you are. So let's make the most and the best out of that. Another thing that we're feeling during this grieving process is emotional attachment. Just because the relationship has ended does not mean that your emotional attachment to this person has. You are used to going to this person for support, for counsel, for just to share your day with them. You're used to them doing that with you, and it can feel really empty. Who do I go to now? Who is my person? Who's going to be in my corner? Who can I tell about my day? And then there's the memories, right? The memories, the happy ruminating that used to happen, if you will. The days where you could talk about, oh, do you remember this? Or when your kid does something funny, that this was your person that you shared those memories with, that you shared those moments with. So the past, your past is filled with shared experiences and memories, which can be really difficult to let go of. And it can cause us to constantly keep going back there. Like, I can't believe this happened. We were so happy. I can't believe that this person would walk away on our family after all of these wonderful memories and all these things that we've gone through together. Or even on the flip side, you might be beating yourself up because I'm feeling so sad, even though this was my decision. Think about all the wonderful times we had. Did I make the wrong decision? That is you ruminating and focusing on the past and living in the past and using selective memory to determine if the past was good or bad, so that, to tell yourself whatever story it is that you need to hear. And so it can be really difficult. We end up living in the past, and that's what we're trying not to do. You cannot move forward when you're living in the past. You cannot heal when you're living in the past, because you're constantly repeating the pain to yourself. The other thing that can cause us to grieve and to ruminate, if you will, is unfinished business or unresolved issues. So, and I hear this so much, I just want closure. I want to have closure. I want to have a conversation so we can have closure. But my ex, I hear horrible stories about people who after 20, 25 years of marriage literally send a text from their business trip and to tell them that they're leaving and they're not coming home. It's a terrible way to break up with someone. But most people don't do it quite like that. There is some kind of conversation, but there's always at least one of the two who is left feeling that they haven't received enough of an explanation. It's usually the person being left. It's just, but why? Why? They keep going back to why. How did this happen? Tell me more, right? Or if the other person has done something like have an affair, so then why they've left for this other person. So the reason has been given, but you're still looking for that closure around them potentially apologizing or explaining why they did something so awful and why they gave up on the family. And so there's this ruminating around the unfinished business. There's this grief in the absence of this conversation that you have told yourself you will feel better if it happens. So first of all, these closure conversations rarely happen. And even when they do, they don't happen the way that you need or want them to. You probably have a bit of a story in your head of what you need to hear, and you're not going to hear it. Most of us, a closure conversation would sound something like, I'm really sorry that I hurt you so badly. This is all my fault. I wish I'd never done it. I feel terrible. You must be suffering so much. You're a good person. Basically a declaration of that they are wrong and you are right and they are bad and you're good, so that you can walk away feeling validated. You don't need that. I get that it might feel good in the moment, but you're not going to get it. You don't need it. You can give yourself the validation that you need. You can close the door. In other words, have your own closure conversation. You can close the doors on these unresolved issues from the past. Don't tell yourself a story where the only way you can heal is if this other person has this conversation with you. You will live in this place forever, because they're not going to come and do that. If they were going to have that conversation with you, they would have had it in the very beginning. So that is what I have to say about that. I hope that even though it isn't very positive, I hope that that can give you some incentive or inspiration to let go of that sort of waiting for that conversation. There's another thing that has us really stuck in the past and stuck in our grief and our ruminating, and that is fear of the future, or as many of you call it, fear of the unknown. And I get it. Like, oh my God, so much is changing. So many things are having to be decided. You have to figure out where you're going to live, what kind of work are you going to do, where are the kids going to go to school, are they going to stay in the home, who's going to live where, what's the parenting time. Like, there's so much uncertainty and therefore so much anxiety. And it has you again kind of going back to, oh, if it just could have stayed the same, if this just hadn't happened, what if we were so happy, how could this have happened to us? And so we go back and we go back and we go back because we wish everything could go back to when it was good, so we didn't have to go through all these changes. And I understand, like, I totally get it. And I was there. But the changes are happening. And the sooner you accept, and you just accept one change at a time, just one at a time. Don't jump into all of them. When you try to make all the decisions in 1 week, you're going to be so overwhelmed that you'll be paralyzed. Just pick one thing. Until I feel good about my decision, the only thing I'm focusing on is where I'm going to live. And then I'll choose a lawyer. I don't know. Or choose a lawyer first so that you can learn what you're entitled to and what your rights are. And then you can check off one decision at a time. Your ex might try to rush you along. Your lawyer might try to rush you along. Don't let them rush you. Take your time, think about your options, and make a decision. And then move on to the next thing. The fear around the unknown is honestly your brain playing horrible tricks on you. Do you remember when I was talking about the pain story in episode 84? How our ego kind of repeats triggers and repeats patterns so that we can validate our pain story? Well, that's kind of what's happening here. Because your brain is used to living a certain way. Even if it wasn't very happy, maybe it was an abusive relationship, but you find yourself missing it and grieving it. And then you feel embarrassed that you are, and you can't tell people. And then like, why am I missing that? You're missing it because it's what you know. You know how to do unhappy with this person. Moving forward towards something that is potentially happy is really scary because it's different. So your brain tells you, whoa, danger, danger. Let's go back to what we know, instead of going to something we don't know, because that is just freaking scary, right? At least you know how to do unhappy. So you have to catch yourself. You have to kind of go, okay, what am I afraid of really? What is it that the fear is? And then there's a process you can go through to show yourself that you actually have nothing to be afraid of. You can get information from your attorney, or you can speak to a coach or a therapist to help you understand the emotional side, or you can speak to a co-parenting expert about your kids, or you can maybe make an appointment with an accountant to talk about your finances. These are the things that people are typically afraid of moving forward. Get the right advice, get as much knowledge and information as you can. And then, you know what? You're going to find that it's actually not that scary. The scary part is the unknown. Fill in the blanks and things start to feel a lot easier. And then you can stop going back and pretending and telling yourself that everything was just so freaking wonderful that you'd rather go back to your potentially abusive or cheating ex, right? So this is where we get really stuck and start wondering and second guessing our decision, especially if you were the one who made the decision to leave. The other thing that can keep you in a negative sort of a grief cycle and ruminating on the past is a negative negative thinking, a pattern of negative thinking. I talked a little bit about that just now, and the fear of the future and how our brain plays these tricks on us. Persistent negative thinking and this sort of like habit of looking back can really trap you in the cycle of grief. And it's because it finds comfort in familiarity. So the past, which you're familiar with. And so it kind of lies to you about how good it was. Sometimes even painful memories can feel more comfortable than the effort that is required to create new memories, right? And a new life and a new existence and a new everything. So, it touches on what I just talked about, and just be aware of the repeated patterns of negative thoughts and start to change the narrative, start to change the thoughts. So, and one thing you could do here, for example, is to write them down. Write down these repeated negative thoughts that you have, maybe around the fear or whatever, and then flip it. Like, look at that sentence and then think, okay, what is a different way that I can think about this? What is a different thought pattern or different perspective that I can have on this? And then rewrite it in a positive way, in a way that empowers you to heal and move forward and take some action going forward, as opposed to just living in the past. So that's an important step. The last one I want to talk to you about today is that can keep us in the grief and in that sort of ruminating, is societal or cultural issues or influences. I work with a lot of women from different cultures as well. And there are definitely cultures that really believe that you stay in a marriage no matter what, that any end of any marriage or any relationship like that is actually a failure. And so there's just so much stigma in certain cultures that's attached to divorce. And as a result, there are cases where when a marriage breaks up, a woman, or even the man, I'm sure it can also happen. I just happen to work with women, so I hear it from them. But it can cause families to walk away from them and turn their backs on them, or extended family to do that. And suddenly they're really isolated and alone because they are not even getting the support of their family, as they might be leaving a very abusive situation or something very difficult. And here they are, or maybe they were left and, there's nothing they could do about it. It was completely out of their control. But their family can't accept that there's a divorce happening here. And so they distance themselves. And that is so devastating, because now not only have you lost the family unit and whatever, but now you're also losing these other people, these potential support people in your life. Thankfully, this happens less and less, but it still happens. And it certainly can increase the grief that you're feeling, the void, the hole in your heart, if you will. So if that is something that you're experiencing, that some of your people, whether it's family or friends, are pulling away from you because they just can't handle what you are going through, honestly, the best thing I can suggest is that you find your people. So I know in the Separation Club, in the Facebook group that I created 5.5 years ago now, that is one of the things that the ladies find so amazing in there, is that they can always get support. There's always someone who says, like, I know what you're going through and I'm here for you. And, you can message me if you need to talk or something like that. And I think it's so crucial that we are able to be heard, and that there are people who understand and are compassionate and kind when we're going through something that's difficult, instead of being judged and being made to feel like we have failed somehow because we have chosen to not be in an abusive environment anymore or something like that. So, try to separate yourself from old belief patterns, expectations that come with these old patterns, and allow yourself to feel happy. Allow yourself the possibility that you had the right to do this. I just know that in your heart, this was the right thing to do, and that maybe you'll have to give everybody else a little time to catch up, but that you are still going to move forward, and to not make that your new narrative, your new story, that you've done something wrong or you've gone against your parents' wishes or something like that, that you've upset them somehow. This is your divorce. It's not theirs. Do they feel it? Of course they do, but it's yours. So you go about it. You do the things that you need to do to be happy, fulfilled, to heal, to, get the help that you need. If you can't get it from your parents, which is often the case, that's okay. There are lots of other people out there who can help you, whether they are professionals or other women who are going through the same thing, or just support groups. Go and find your people who understand and will not judge you, and will either virtually or physically throw their arms around you. It's what happens when we go to retreats. It's what happens when we get on our Zoom calls. So all of that is available to you. You just have to go out there and find it. Okay. And you can certainly find it here with us in the Separation Club. So before I wrap up today, I just want to quickly go through some strategies. I've already mentioned so many, but I do have some other ones that, or maybe just some bullet points that I want to mention to you here at the end, so that we can, make sure that you have the tools that you need to move forward. You know me, I always like to give you some steps to take. So if you have a pen and paper handy, start writing down. Okay, so here are some strategies for you to use to overcome being stuck in your grief and being stuck in circulating the memories of the past constantly. First of all, number one, show yourself some acceptance and self-compassion. So accept that your feelings are valid. You don't need other people to validate them for that to be true. You can do it for yourself, and give yourself permission to grieve without any self-judgment. judgment, okay? That's it. Just be there for yourself. If you can't be there for yourself, it is actually really hard to expect that somebody else will be as well. But if you can be there for yourself, first of all, you'll already feel so much better, and people will show up for you. Because they'll learn from you how to show up for you. Okay. So number 2 is to focus on mindfulness and meditation. Yes, I keep repeating that in like every episode, but it's that important. Practice mindfulness to stay present and to reduce these ruminating thoughts, these constant regurgitating the pain. Learn to become present in your body and to be able to say to yourself, I am okay right now. Right now, in this present moment, I am breathing. I have a roof over my head. I have people who love me, and I'm okay. Right now, I'm actually kind of good. And so as we start to do that, we start to realize that our life might not be so bad after all. But when we constantly dip back into the past and say things to ourselves like, oh, my life is so terrible because of this, or I've lost this and this and this and this and this and this, well, it's pretty hard to get happy about the future then. But the happy future is available to you, just like it was to me, just like it is to others who've gone before you. It is available to you as well. You just have to give yourself some space and create some space in your body to allow those thoughts in. And then you have to deliberately think them. You have to choose to. Okay. Number 3 is to get some support, professional help, whether through therapy, coaching, retreats, workshops, the new Rising Free membership that's coming back in August. So make sure there's a link in the show notes to get on the wait list so that I can let you know the moment we open, and also so I can let you know about all kinds of launch specials. There's going to be such an incredible lineup of speakers and guests who are going to come and talk to you about all the things that I've talked about, like grief and the legal part and the financial part and the parenting part, and we're going to talk about all of it. So that's a great place to go to get some support. So that's important. No one is meant to go through this alone and to heal from this all on their own. This is not something that's just like a little hiccup in your life. This is big. So get the help that you need and ask for help. It's important. It's really important. Journaling, of course, right? So why is journaling so important? Well, I've already mentioned it several times in the last few episodes and earlier today. You need to write down your thoughts and feelings to not just to process them, but to gain insights from them. When you write things down and you see it there on paper, even just the act of writing it, you might even, during the act of writing down the negative thought, realize, why am I thinking this? This is not even true. Or why do I keep going back to this? Well, that's a clue. Like, I need to work on that. This is clearly something that just keeps coming up for me. Why? And then you can start adding some curiosity around this. You can start asking yourself some other questions. You can start journaling, just letting your hand just go. It'll take you there. Like, this thoughts will just come out of you, and suddenly there just might be a solution on that paper. The Joy Journal is a great way to do some of this work as well, because for every day, there's a suggestion or an invitation to write down an intention, to write down what mood or how you're feeling that day, to write down what you're grateful for that day. So there's such an opportunity to create a positive environment around your journaling. And of course, there's blank space to write whatever you want as well. So the Joy Journal is an amazing route to go as you work from leaving the grief and the pain behind, and you move towards your healing, and you take yourself on this self-discovery journey, which is so joyful. So really recommend the Joy Journal. And if nothing else, I really recommend journaling. Of course, it can be done on just pieces of paper, right? You can do it anywhere. The important thing is to do it. I also want to encourage you, so number 4, to focus on growth, to keep listening to episodes like this, read books, listen to people who know on YouTube, come to my masterclasses, join the Rising Free membership to learn from the experts. Be willing to take the steps necessary for you to heal. Become aware of the areas where you are stuck and get help in those areas, and then do the work. Like all the suggestions that I've given you today, unfortunately, the majority of you will probably not do them. I've been so guilty of that myself, whether it comes to business growth or personal growth or whatever. You listen to something and you think, oh yeah, this is great. I'm going to do all that. I'm going to feel better. I love it. I'm inspired. And then the episode is over and it's like, oh, I got to do this and then I'll get back to it. And you never do. Well, make this one of the episodes that you come back to. Come back to it and listen to this again and take the steps because they work. I promise you they work. Not the first time, but maybe the second time and the third time even more. Work on it. Stick with it. This is what I did. I healed fast. I healed well. I found joy in myself. I found love for myself. I found a beautiful future. I do work that I feel inspired by. I found love again. So many good things, but I did the work. I asked all the questions. I did all the journaling. I did all the meditation and reflection. I got help. All of those things are available to you here. If you want to work with me, you can do that as well. Okay? So focus on growth. I already talked about the next one, social support. Find yourself friends you can trust. Go to them. You don't have to go to everyone. Just go to the ones that you trust and who are there for you. Family members who are there for you. When you know that someone is not able to be there for you or they tend to be judgmental, stop going to them. Stop going back for that punishment, basically. You know that they're not going to say the things that you need to hear. Don't go to them. And I don't care if they say to you, oh, you don't want to hear what I have to say. No, I don't. It's not helpful for me right now. And I need to surround myself with positive people and positive thoughts. So do that. Okay. Find the people who are going to help you through this. And then the last one, which I have already mentioned several times, is to get professional help. So I won't go back into that. There we are. We got through this episode, and I know that we talked about some really heavy feelings today, but I'm so proud of you for being here, for listening, for taking the time and doing this for yourself. Just listening to this episode moves you closer to healing. This is the step. And then remember what I said. It's important to come back and do these steps. Okay? Even if not all of them resonated with you, that's okay. You're not failing at anything. Pick the things that work for you. Pick the things where you want, I want to do that. Or that, yes, that's a great idea. Pick those things and do it over and over and over again. You will feel better. I promise. And the tools that you learn to get over this are the same tools you will learn throughout life. When things come your way that don't feel good, you'll keep going back because you'll learn. I know what I need to do when I'm feeling this way. I need to identify my triggers. I need to figure out my pain story. I'm going to do it in my journal, and then I'm going to get a little bit of help, and maybe I'll do a coaching session or two or a therapy session or two, and then I can get on with my life and feel good again. That's what I want for you. I want you to have the tools at your fingertips. I want you to always know what you need to do to feel better that day, that week. Having a bad month, something really bad happens in your life, something really challenging, you know what to do. That's where we want to get to. So one day you will look back on your divorce and you'll say to yourself, it was really hard, but I learned so many valuable tools and I learned so much about myself, and that I am truly grateful for. That's how I feel, and that's what I want for you. And I know it's possible. So let's do that, okay? Let's do that, and let's do it together. So keep coming back. We still have a couple more episodes in this series. I'm really looking forward to going through all of this with you. So I will see you again, or hear from you, or be here with you in your headset, next week. I keep saying see because these episodes, in case you didn't know, are also being aired on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. I should actually put that in the show notes as well. I'm going to add that link to the show notes so you can check me out on YouTube if you would like. In the meantime, I am grateful for you and for the work that you're doing here with me. I'm really, really proud of you. I see you. I hold space for you. I love you big time, and I think you're amazing. And have a really beautiful day. And I will see you again, or talk to you again next week.